Today on Sports Card Investor, I've got a lot to say about the recent drop of prices in iconic cards, plus 5 cards that aren't dropping at all, but rather are going straight up. My name is Geoff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me on my journey to profit from the hobby we all love. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to another Top 5 Tuesday. I hope your week is off to a wonderful start. I've got to be honest with you, mine is not. I am still not over the pain of my Florida Gators getting bounced in March Madness by a 15 seed. Not only did we get bounced by a 15 seed, but we had a double-digit lead with less than 10 minutes left in the game. This is one that is going to be haunting me all off-season long, but I guess that is why they call it March Madness. I hope whoever you were rooting for fared a little bit better. It's been a fun tournament, just not so fun right now to be a Gator fan. But hey, I digress. We got better things to talk about today than that. We've got 5 incredibly hot sports cards to talk about. And I wanted to start today by giving you my perspective on what is going on in the sports card market. There are those out there right now who are pointing at the drop in prices of iconic cards across the sports card market, and they're saying the bubble is bursting. The run is over. Panic and run for the hills. And this is being perpetuated by some loud voices on social media, including a friend of sports card investors, Darren Rovell, who just over the weekend was tweeting about how sports card auctions were going for a lot less money than they were a month ago for iconic cards. And he was actually almost kind of prodding on sports card investors, saying, put your money where your mouth is if you still believe we're early in the sports card investing game. Well, I have to say this. As much as I love Darren, that is completely lacking perspective. Yes, the sports card market absolutely got overheated at the beginning of February. But to say that what has happened over the last few weeks since those prices have come down from all-time highs is indicative of the market being soft, of the bubble bursting, of a crash happening, that is completely short-sighted. All you have to do is zoom out a little bit. Go back and look at the last 90 days. Prices are still way up. And this pattern of this overheated spike with this cooling off period, this correction period coming off of it that we're now going through, we've seen this pattern before. And the last time we saw this pattern, guess what happened? Prices leveled off, and then a few months later, they started going back up again. And let me show you the evidence of exactly what I'm talking about. You can look in market movers, you can look at graph after graph after graph and see this pattern playing out. The card I'm going to show you here is one of those iconic cards that shot out of a cannon through December and January and especially early February, and has now fallen back down somewhat. But I think actually we might be entering a good buying opportunity again. I'm going to show you Kobe Bryant's 1996 Topps rookie card in PSA 10. And so the first graph that I'm going to bring up here it is. The first graph is the trajectory of this card since its high point on February 13th. If you only look at what has happened since February 13th, it looks like the sports card market, everything is falling. This card has absolutely nosedived. And it's true. This card sold on February 13th for $12,000. That was the top sale of this card. It is now all the way down a few weeks later at $5,400. That is a big decrease. That is a 55% decrease. But that is by looking at the absolute high point a few weeks ago to where this card is today. If we go back to December and we simply look over a 90-day period of time, let me show you this graph. It tells a much different story. This card back on December 19th was less than $2,000. And today it's still $5,400. Today it is still almost 3 times where it was just 90 days ago. What happened was, if you look in early February especially, we had this really artificial spike that started to occur where the price of this card took off out of the stratosphere. And that happened not just with this Kobe card, but with LeBron's cards, with a bunch of other iconic cards, Michael Jordan's cards as well. All of those Jordan Fleer cards that just went berserk in late January and early February. That was overheated. That was artificial. That was flippers selling to flippers, speculators selling to speculators, or it was a lot of people with fear of missing out that were just trying to throw money in because they thought this thing was a rocket ship to the moon. But the truth of the matter is that wasn't sustainable. But if you go back and you look at the overall trend line, look at the dotted trend line, the 90-day trend line on your screen, it's still up and to the right. It's still going in a great direction. It's still very steady. And I believe that now that these prices have come down some, I think they're going to level off pretty soon. And then I think they're going to start to go back up again. And the evidence that I have to share with you about that is just to look even wider, get a wider perspective. Look at this card over the course of the last year. And you can see, look what happened last August. This same pattern happened last August when the sports card market got really, really overheated. In early to mid-August, you had this crazy run-up in prices. And then it came back down to earth. You had a big decline. But look where it leveled off. It leveled off right in this area. That leveling off is still significantly above where those prices were even back in June and July. So what you saw is that when it came down on the other side, it leveled off, but there was an overall gain for the people who got into that card just a few months prior. And I think we're going to see that same thing with this Kobe card. I think you're about to see a leveling off probably in this area pretty soon. And for those of you who got in this card back in November or December, you're still going to be pretty happy with the fact that this card's still considerably up over the last 90 days. It will likely level off. Hopefully, it will go up again in the next few months ahead. But the overall pattern of what is happening in the sports card hobby is very strong. And we're going to have these peaks and we're going to have these valleys. Don't get caught up in the fear of missing out. And next time you see one of these spikes, like right here or right here, that looks tremendously just like what is going on, take a breath, step back, let it play out. Maybe you sell the card into the spike. If you have the card, that's a pretty good time to sell. Don't get caught up in a fear of missing out. That spike was a little bit overheated, but in my opinion, the overall market remains very strong. What do you think? I would love to hear what you think about the sports card market right now. Leave your thoughts in the comments below our YouTube video. All right, that's some thoughts on the market, but there are some cards that have really been going up. We've got 5 of them to share with you today. Before we jump in, real quick, do me 2 favors. First of all, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. We are really increasing our subscriber account thanks to you, so please hit that subscribe button. And second of all, because we are getting into potentially a buy period, if you should be looking, if you're a sports card investor who wants to be watching the market and understanding when it might be the right time to buy, you should be watching these graphs very, very closely for any card you are going after. And the best way to do that, of course, is market movers. All of this stuff comes from market movers. We now have literally tens of thousands of cards that we are putting into market movers, including, by the way, tons of raw cards. If you haven't checked it out recently, go to sportscardinvestor.com and click on market movers in the main menu. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started with today's top 5 cards. Starting off on today's list, in number 5, a young basketball player who I like a lot. He is maybe the forgotten member of the big 3 of the 2019 NBA draft class, RJ Barrett. He, of course, has a tough act to follow coming after Zion and Ja, but RJ Barrett is doing good things, and the Knicks are a surprisingly great team. Now, going into this season, there were a lot of people buying RJ Barrett's cards, and his card prices had gone up a lot, and he got off to a hot start. But as the season progressed, Barrett's play became somewhat uneven. He had a number of games where he didn't put up good scoring totals, and his card prices came down a lot. But in the last couple of weeks, they are on an upwards trend again because his play is once again on an upwards trend. In fact, in the last 14 days, RJ Barrett has been averaging 22 points per game while averaging 53% from the field, and the Knicks have been playing really well. And sports card investors are using this opportunity to buy some RJ Barrett cards. I put 3 of his 2019 Prism cards up here on the screen, his base card, his orange ice card, and his red, white, and blue card, all in PSA 10. And if we switch to see what the percentage changes have been on these cards over the last 30 days, you can see they've all been going up a nice amount. In fact, his red, white, and blue is up 86%. His orange ice is up 50%, and his base card is up 20% over the course of the last 30 days. Of course, his base card is much more common. There are actually over 5,000 of that card in PSA 10, where those other 2 cards I just mentioned, there are less than 300 of them in PSA 10. So as a result of the scarcity, those cards can fluctuate quite a bit more in terms of prices. But no matter which RJ Barrett card you're in on, all of those cards seemingly have been going up over the last 30 days. I personally like RJ Barrett. I think he's got a great future in New York. It's going to be exciting to see what the Knicks organization can do in the years ahead. All right, our number 4 guy on the list today. We are switching over to football. Got to get my notes together there, and we got to talk about a player who just switched teams, because if you watch this top 5 show often, you know that I am always saying that when a player switches teams, it is often a good point in time for his card prices. You often see his card prices rise on the news of him going to a new team, and the clearest new example of that is Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay was recently signed by the New York Giants, and they're expecting this guy to be their number 1 receiver. They paid him big time money. 4 years, $72 million. That is number 1 receiver money. Now, there are some out there questioning, can this guy really be a true number 1? I don't know, but the Giants certainly think so. He is coming off of his best season last year for Detroit. He put up almost 1,200 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. He's 27 years old, so he's still in his prime. He's got the opportunity to provide some help to Daniel Jones and the New York Giants offense, and sports card investors are excited about that possibility. I brought up here on the screen his 2017 Prism Silver in PSA 10 and his 2017 Prism Silver in Raw. As I mentioned earlier, we've now added Raw cards throughout Market Movers to many cards, and soon to almost every card in Market Movers will have Raw condition cards for you to be able to track and add to your collection. And so we can see what both of these cards here for Golladay have done. And if we switch to look at price change by percentages on these cards, you can see that over the last 30 days, his PSA 10 rookie card is up $210, is up 56%, and his raw condition card is up 58%. So both have a very similar trend line trajectory in terms of how much they've gone up over the course of the last 30 days. Not a bad return. In fact, you could have bought these cards for just a couple of weeks ago. His raw card, you could have bought here, like back, for example, in early March for $6. That card's now $24. Not a bad return over a couple week period of time. All right, let's go to our number 3 guy on the list. We're going back to basketball. We're going to a young player who's exciting a lot of people, the number 1 pick in this last year's draft, Anthony Edwards. And he is really, in some ways, starting to play, or at least starting to show the promise of a number 1 pick. Now, he's had some big highlights this year. He's had some big slam dunks. We've seen him on SportsCenter with some of his highlight dunks. But his overall play is getting better. He's averaging now almost 17 points per game this season. He's averaging over 4 rebounds per game and 2.5 assists per game. And of course, he's still very young. He's 19 years old. His shooting percentage isn't great. It's only 39%. But once again, he's young. He's got a lot of potential. People are scooping up his cards, thinking that he is going to truly grow into a star. And I brought up 2 of his cards on the screen I wanted to show you. His 2020 Hoops base card in raw condition, and his 2020 Revolution base card in raw condition. This one just came out. And here's the interesting thing about this Revolution card. It's almost always true in the sports card hobby that when a brand new set comes out, the cards, the first few of that set that hit the market sell at a high price, and then they immediately, all of the rest of the cards immediately start dropping in price over the next few days. Well, that hasn't happened with his Revolution card. In fact, his Revolution card actually has been going up since it hit the market a couple of weeks ago, since that Revolution set came out and people started selling these cards on eBay. Some of that could be fueled by the fact that Anthony Edwards recently, March 18th, had a career high 42 points against the Suns. That really got people's attention, and that caused a spike in his card prices. And if we switch to look at both of these cards by percentage change, if you look here just in the last week or so, since he had that really big game right at this point, you can see that spike that's occurred in the last week. His cards are all going up pretty significantly. It's going to be exciting to see when Prism comes out in the next couple of weeks what Anthony Edwards cards in Prism go for. Maybe people are going to be chasing them a little bit more heavily now that LaMelo Ball is unfortunately sidelined with an injury, perhaps out for the rest of the season. That's probably going to put a little extra focus on Anthony Edwards. All right, our number 2 guy on this list, it's funny we're talking about this guy again. Cam Newton has found his way onto this list multiple times this year. In fact, I want to show this to you. This is funny. We've got to go back and look at the last year of Cam Newton's card prices here. This is his 2011 Topps base card, and I adjusted the graph and market movers to show a full year worth of data. And look at the pattern of this card over the course of the year. We had this incredible spike that occurred back in, let's see, that was June of last year when it was announced he was signed by the Patriots. We then saw an incredible run up in prices that happened in early September, late August and early September, as people really were optimistic about the Patriots' chances this season. That optimism soon went away due to his play being marginal at best this last year, and you can see how his card prices just fell throughout the season, and then they just eventually dropped and kind of hit rock bottom as the Patriots got eliminated from playoff contention and the season came to an end. But then all of a sudden, in the last few days, his cards have really been going up again, and we're going to zoom here to look at just the last 30 days or so of his card, and you can see over the last 30 days, this is now up 114%. We're doing it again. His cards are going back up again. And of course, the reason for this is he was just re-signed by the Patriots on a new one-year deal, a deal that is very incentive laden, a lot of opportunities for him to make more money if he plays all year, if he leads the Patriots to the playoffs, all that type of thing. And so, the fact that he's going to be there, he's going to be leading the Patriots. They have invested a lot of money this offseason in free agents. So that has people a little bit more optimistic that they're going to actually be able to compete this year again. And so, hey, people are buying Cam Newton again. They're hoping he can actually do it this season. Will that happen? I'm not too optimistic myself, but it's going to be a fun ride to watch. And that is why Cam Newton is number 2 in this week's top 5 cards. But our number 1 guy this week, a guy who maybe was a little bit of a forgotten about rookie from 2019 Prism, but a guy who's really spiked in the last couple of weeks, Jordan Poole. And Jordan Poole is a very relevant player to be talking about right now because we're here in March Madness, and Jordan Poole led the University of Michigan to the finals back in his freshman year, 2017-2018. They went to the finals that year. He was a good player throughout March Madness, a great player for Michigan during his time there. But then he was drafted by the Warriors. Last year for the Warriors, he got some play time, but didn't put up huge numbers. He was, I think, around like 8 or 9 points per game. This year, he actually got sent down to the G League, but he recently got called back up. He was kind of forgotten about by sports card investors. His cards had gone down a lot, but he was called back up from the G League just a few weeks ago, and in the 7 games since he was called up, he's averaging almost 21 points per game. He's had 3 games where he's gotten 25 points or more. So as a result, you can imagine now all of a sudden sports card investors are cued back into Jordan Poole again, and you can see what his cards have done. Look, in in the last couple of weeks what these cards have done. I brought here on the screen his 2019 Prism base card in PSA 10 and his 2019 Prism silver card in PSA 10. And talk about an affordable card compared to most of the other 2019 Prism silver cards. You could have bought his Prism silver card in PSA 10 condition for $86. In PSA 10 condition, the silver. In PSA 10 condition, $86 back on March the 11th. That was only 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, $86. Most recently, $430. It's gone from $86 to $430 over the course of 3 weeks. That is, well, wait, it's not even 3 weeks. My math is off there, right? That's less than 2 weeks. That's like 10 or 11 days. Not even 2 weeks. His card has gone from $86 all the way up to $430. That is absolutely incredible. That is what happens when a player gets called up, has some good games, and everyone is reminded of his name again in this world of sports cards where people jump on trends quick and they try to out fast each other to find the next big thing. Jordan Poole is the next big thing, at least for this week. We'll see what happens next week, but he is number one in this week. If you enjoy graphs like this and looking at all this data of all these different sports card prices, please check out Market Movers. Go to sportscardinvestor.com and click on Market Movers in the main menu bar. And also, if you haven't downloaded it yet, oh my goodness, go get the Sports Card Investor app. It's free in the App Store, and we've added a killer new feature, the Favorites feature. We added that like a week or two ago. It's a great way to keep track of your favorite cards and be able to check their prices and what they're selling for every single day. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. We appreciate it, and we will see you back here again in a couple of days with our next episode. Take care.